Oh, welcome back to episode 5 of the week that was. Here are some proofs that go over some essential vocabulary that will get you through the unit. You can pause the video to take a good look at this and we'll go over it. All right, so you're done pausing it. You've got the idea of what's basically happening here. And our goal is to prove that triangle TOR is identical to or congruent to triangle MOR. These are our given facts. These are the only given facts that we have in the problem. So what I'm suggesting that you do with the givens is treat them like money. So what can you buy with the fact that RO is perpendicular to MT or TM? RO is perpendicular to TM. With that, I can buy the fact that these two angles have to be right angles. And I can write that down. That angle TOR and angle MOR are right angles. The reason why I know they're right angles, well, I purchased this, I bought that with this fact. So I basically spent that as money. So the reason why these two are right angles is because of this. So you would write down what happened. This means that we've got perpendicular segments, and perpendicular segments form right angles. And as soon as we know that's true, as soon as we know we have two right angles, you can move right into one more fact because of that. Because this is true, we know that angle TOR is congruent to angle MOR. And the reason is because all right angles have to be identical, or all right angles are congruent. These three lines show up time and time again in the proofs. Given perpendiculars, tell me where the right angles are. And now that we know that there's two right angles, tell me that they're congruent to each other. And anytime we can say that two parts are congruent, it's a very important fact. It's a very powerful fact. So we've spent the first given. Now let's spend the second given. O is the midpoint of TM. So I know that O is in the middle of TM. If O is in the middle of TM, that must mean that T to O is the same as M to O. So I'm using this fact to buy something. Because I've got a midpoint, I can spend it. A midpoint makes two congruent segments. That's one way to actually write it. You could write definition of a midpoint. You could also write midpoint splits a segment in half. You could write a midpoint makes two segments congruent. There's different ways to actually say it, but tell me something about midpoints and what they do. So because midpoints make two congruent segments, the two congruent segments are TO and MO. So I've got another match of two things that are congruent. I'm after trying to prove that the triangles are congruent. And all I've got are these facts right here. I can put S's and A's on the picture to show you what matches up. And you can see that we don't have enough information. All we have is a side and an angle, and that's it. And we've actually spent all of our money. So now we have to earn some money on the picture itself. Going just off the picture, what is something that has to be true that is equal in one triangle, it's also equal in the other? You might think that these angles are the same because they look the same. That's not a good enough reason. You might say that these sides have to be the same. Although that's going to be true, we don't know a reason why we can actually say it. The only thing we can say has to be true between this triangle and this triangle, it has to be the same, is that the side down the middle is being shared by both triangles. And that would be our reflexive property. So in line 6, we would write that RO is congruent to itself. That means that RO in the left triangle is the same as RO in the other triangle. So in line 6, you would write reflexive property, and you can see now we've got 3 facts that are pairing up parts from the left triangle to the right triangle. And you can see our pattern here of a side, angle, side. Now I can finish off the proof and say that the triangle tor is congruent to triangle more. And the reason is the side, angle, side congruence. It's good to point out that in line 4, it says that the angles are congruent. That's not that powerful of a fact, but it's important. In line 7, it says that the triangles are congruent, and that's a much more powerful sentence. Once I know the triangles are congruent, then I know that everything will match up. Now because I know the triangles are congruent, now I can actually say T and M are congruent because they're the corresponding angles of the congruent triangles. I can also say that this angle here on top, called angle 1, is congruent to angle 2 because I know the triangles are congruent. These two triangles are twins of each other, so I can also say that from T to R, it's the same as M to R. And again, that's all because I know the triangles are congruent. I couldn't have said this right from the very beginning because I didn't know enough about the triangle.